Chapter 6. The Accident. For nearly 2 years, the crew of the Meridian had watched humanity attempt to organize itself. The results were inconsistent. Human nations cooperated. Then they competed. Then they argued. Then they signed agreements. Then they argued about the agreements. Captain Terv had long since abandoned any hope of understanding the process. One morning, analyst Vera entered the observation chamber carrying a stack of reports. "You should see this." Korv looked up from his workstation. "Has someone built another rocket large enough to concern me?" "Worse." That immediately caught his attention. "How much worse?" Vera projected the data onto the central display. "A multinational propulsion initiative." The engineer stared at the list of participating governments, corporations, universities, and research institutes. There were hundreds. Korv frowned. This many organizations are cooperating. Apparently, Selen examined the project description. The objective is straightforward. Develop a highly efficient propulsion system for interplanetary travel. Captain Terv nodded. "A sensible goal." Vera hesitated. "There is one complication." Korv sighed. "Of course there is." The complication became obvious within minutes. The humans had spent months debating budgets, technical specifications, intellectual property rights, safety regulations, launch locations, and even the official name of the project. The Meridian's translators struggled to keep up. One committee argued that the engine should prioritize efficiency. Another demanded higher thrust. A third group insisted that the entire project was economically irresponsible. A fourth group argued that the previous group did not understand economics. Captain Terv watched several human officials interrupt one another during a meeting. How do they build anything? Selen enlarged another screen. They do not appear to know. Vera consulted the timeline. Curiously, this level of disagreement is considered progress. Korv leaned back in his chair. In our civilization, a scientific dispute of this magnitude would delay a project for decades. Vera looked at him. "And humans?" Korv pointed at the screen. "They schedule another meeting and continue arguing." The engineer watched the debate for several more minutes. "I am beginning to suspect that human civilization is powered entirely by deadlines." Against all expectations, the project moved forward. The goal was modest. Officially, the humans were attempting to develop a new generation of plasma propulsion systems for long-duration missions. Unofficially, they were combining disciplines that had no business being in the same laboratory. Quantum physics, artificial intelligence, exotic superconductors, high-energy plasmas, experimental field geometries. Selen studied the schematics. No civilization combines these fields this early. Korv zoomed in on the design. Humans appear to regard scientific disciplines as recommendations. Captain Terv stared at the screen. "Will it work?" Korv considered the question. "No." Confidently. Extremely. The day of the test arrived. For the humans, it was merely another experiment. For the crew of the Meridian, it had become mandatory entertainment. The observation chamber was full. Officially, they were monitoring an important technological milestone. Unofficially, betting had resumed. Vera checked her tablet. "Current predictions." Korv answered immediately. "Containment instability after 90 seconds." Selen shook her head. "Thermal failure after 2 minutes." Captain Terv crossed his arms. You are all aware that we are supposed to be impartial observers. Nobody replied. The countdown reached 0. The machine activated. At first, everything appeared normal. Magnetic field stabilized. Energy levels rose. The plasma chamber reached operational temperature. Human engineers exchanged optimistic glances. Korv narrowed his eyes. Something is wrong. Vera looked up. What? I do not know yet. The machine accelerated. Numbers scrolled across every display. One of the human scientists adjusted a control parameter. Another modified the field geometry. Selen suddenly stood. Wait. Korv leaned toward the screen. No. The room fell silent. The energy pattern shifted. For less than a second, the sensors aboard the Meridian detected something impossible. Space itself bent. Only slightly. Barely enough to register. But it bent. Then the containment system failed. The laboratory disappeared behind fire, smoke, and emergency shutters. Every alarm aboard the human facility activated at once. On the Meridian, nobody moved. Captain Terv was the first to speak. Report. No one answered. Selen reviewed the data. Again and again. Korv checked the sensors independently. Then a third time. Vera finally broke the silence. Did they do that intentionally? Korv shook his head. Absolutely not. Then why did it happen? The engineer stared at the measurements. I have no idea. The statement disturbed everyone. Chief Engineer Korv disliked uncertainty. Today, uncertainty had become unavoidable. The following hours were tense. The human media focused on the accident. Politicians blamed one another. Corporate representatives defended the project. Scientists demanded more funding. Captain Terv watched the broadcasts in disbelief. Their experiment nearly destroyed an entire facility. Selen nodded. Yes. And now they are arguing about budgets. Yes. The captain looked genuinely confused. Should they not first determine what happened? Korv glanced at the political debate. They are humans, Captain. That explains nothing. The engineer shrugged. It explains everything. Deep within the Meridian, the predictive analysis core processed the new data. The chamber remained silent as the machine recalculated humanity's trajectory. The original estimate had been 340 years, then 287, then 241. Now the numbers changed once more. The result appeared on the screen. Estimated time to practical faster-than-light capability, 127 years. Nobody spoke. Captain Terv looked at the projection for a long time. That is impossible. The computer responded immediately. Correction acknowledged. Human development continues to violate established predictive models. Selen folded her arms. We are no longer asking whether humanity will reach the stars. Korv nodded slowly. We are trying to determine how soon. Late that night, Terv prepared the most serious report of the mission. He reviewed the sensor recordings one last time. For a fraction of a second, the human experiment had produced a distortion, matching theoretical models associated with faster-than-light phenomena. The humans had not noticed. The aliens had. Terv began writing. Priority report Sol system. Human propulsion experiment resulted in catastrophic failure. Secondary observations indicate the presence of a transient spacetime anomaly. No evidence suggests that the subjects understand the phenomenon they produced. He paused, then added a final note. The danger posed by humanity does not arise from superior knowledge. It arises from their willingness to continue experimenting, long after every reasonable civilization would have stopped. The report was transmitted. Several minutes later, Captain Terv looked once more toward the blue planet below. For the first time since arriving in the solar system, he felt something unfamiliar. Concern, because somewhere on that distant world, a group of exhausted human scientists had just witnessed the most expensive failure of their careers. And there was a very real possibility that, by morning, they would decide to try again.